we'll go to the awesome thumbnail that Big Mad Crab made. Again, shout out to Big Mad Crab for the thumbnail. And I'm going to switch the screen over and we'll go back to our main. Let me blow this up a little bit. This is from our friends over at Popular Resistance. And they are also an aggregator of independent news and uncorrupted news and unfiltered news. And they found one on a website called Moon of Alabama. That's an excellent war reporting site. And they've actually been kind of piping through and feeding Moon of Alabama as well as a host of different content creators. And we like to share Popular Resistance. They also have their own original writers, kind of like what we do. They also have their own podcast called Clearing the Fog with Dr. Margaret Flowers. So shout out to Popular Resistance. They're a big part of what Independent Left News does. And they're talking about what's happening in Ukraine right now. And they are one of the better analysts when it comes to what's happening during the actual war and looking at where the military situation is closing in. Again, I am not a military expert. I will be the first one to admit that. But I rely on people like this. And again, this was from March 31st. So this is already a few days old. And you've got a Scott Ritter chat with Vladimir Kozin talking about the INF Treaty and what its demise means, as well as what the second phase is. And again, this map defined of the situation in Ukraine is provided by the French Ministry of Defense, which is interesting. Where has Russia advanced?
Right.
Okay. Where are the principal explosions and fight? Where is the fighting? Where are the fronts? Where who's on the offensive? Okay. It comes with short notes about the numbered theaters, which is really detailed, pretty wild. All right. And then Moon of Alabama provides their own analysis. And again, I don't know who these people are, but I've been reading their analysis, and it seems to be pretty damn spot on.
Okay.
That, for example, the Russian military operation began with a rather small force of some 150,000 plus men against a larger Ukrainian force of some 400,000. The Russian force used maneuver warfare to fix the larger Ukrainian force into place. It attacked on a large front and threatened major population concentrations, i.e. cities. That's, again, some people would call that in different ways, targeting civilians. That's not cool. The Russian operation started with the destruction of the Ukrainian command and control network. Over the last 4 weeks, the Ukrainian Navy, its air force, its radars, and air defenses, and a huge number of its armored vehicles were destroyed. Again, where are you seeing this analysis in any kind of Western press?
You're not.
Right? Throughout the last week, fuel depots all over the Ukraine were attacked and destroyed overnight. Ukraine's large ammunition depots are gone. Military production and repair facilities have likewise been destroyed. The Ukraine is no longer able to move the large numbers of troops between the various fronts. Its army has lost its mobility. All right.
So it's the beginning of the end for that.
All right. So again, when people are saying that Russia is losing this war and that this is a waste, that's not the actual situation. They've committed half the troops that Ukraine has, and they've destroyed all the equipment so far. Look, we've been saying if they wanted to commit full force and take Kiev and take the entire country, they could have at any done point. That weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me in a situation of like the U.S. and Baghdad, where in a lot of ways, we could have gone in at any point and taken it out, but we didn't.
And they've actually handled it better than we did.
Right.
In some respects.
So, again, threats to Kiev, Odessa, large other Ukrainian cities have held significant numbers of Ukrainian troops in place, prevented reinforcements to move to the east. Therefore, units from Donetsk and Luhansk republics attacked the 60,000 strong main force of the Ukrainian army to keep it in place. So this allowed Russian forces from Crimea and the Russian border in the north to move into positions that will now enable them to envelop the east. So again, that's looking at what's happening here. So they're getting reinforcements to this area right over here, This is the Donbass region. This is Luhansk. This is Donetsk. This is Dobopilia, which apparently has now been overtaken. You've got Crimea down here. All right. Again, sadly, most Americans can't identify where this is on a map or any part of the Ukraine. But when you actually study this and you do your homework and you listen to different media
Bucharest
sources,
is right there. There's Romania to the left.
Right.
This is why Romanians sound like
there was a whole thing up in Belarusia, again. So got to know all this stuff if you're going to talk about this, and you have to at least know where they are on the map and about the pipeline that was going through Ukraine from Russia to Germany and why that was important.
Not to mention those were all part of one country at one point. Well, they're all part of Russia.
Well, no, they were all part of the USSR, which hasn't existed since 1991. Yes. All right, Russia is not the USSR. Russia is a capitalist oligarchy, and run similar to the United States in that way. Only it's more authoritarian in some ways and fascist in other ways. They give health care to all their citizens. So, what does that say? Okay. Shout out to Warren. How are you, buddy? Good to see you tonight. Thanks for having me on Extra Booyah on Thursday night. That was a lot of fun. We cut loose and talked about independent media and aggregation. So back to the story. Okay, again, there are some specific points of analysis, and I think these are really important. Every one of them, and I hate to read through all the stuff in an article, but this is really important stuff. All right, the move east and west of Kiev was, as they've said for a while, a feint to fix mobile Ukrainian units around their capital city. The feint is no longer needed as the Ukrainian army has now lost its mobility. The Russian troops, around Kiev and Chernigov will mostly be withdrawn probably up to Chernobyl, where a part of them may take defensive positions, while most of the units deployed around Kiev will be moved back to Belarus and Russia for new operations in eastern Ukraine. Okay, the next point, fighting around Kharkiv is ongoing. Ukrainian counterattacks on that front have failed, and the next phase of the war will see increased activities there. And at the move on west side of the Dnieper River, and I'm sorry if I butchered that. Okay, Dnieper, again, I don't know how to pronounce that, so I'm gonna butcher it. Towards the important industrial area of Kryvyi and onto Dnipro. Thanks. Has been relatively slow. See this on it. The move on the eastern side has been at the same speed. Note that the western and eastern parts on these fronts are at the same level. They're well coordinated, and the next phase will probably see more movement on the eastern side of the river. I mean, step by step, front by front analysis. Still a few pockets of Azov fighters in Mariupol, with main units encircled in vast Azov-style steelworks, little food and ammunition, and the Chechen units of the Russian army and National Guard are working to dig them out. Russian forces that encircled and stored Mariupol are now freed up and will be moved to attack further north. So again, this is not boding well for Ukrainians, and this is what Aaron Mate and what Scott Ritter, I know, have been talking about. Has basically, you've served up the entire Ukrainian army as cannon fodder and some of the Ukrainian people, which is really sad and frustrating and unnecessary in a lot of ways.
Especially when fuckers knew from the get-go that their things weren't going to get accepted. So when Russia's pretty much only request is to not join NATO.
Did I moved it down. Okay. Then again, we have Ukrainian forces at Mykolaiv have attempted counterattacks in the direction of Kherson. These have also failed. So it doesn't add up to doing well. Russian command now decided to concentrate on enveloping the next front. Okay, these are the most heavy equipped, experienced units of the Ukrainian army since last fall. Some 60,000 men have been arranged there for a full-fledged war, but also they're also preparing, because the Russians had been building up their front to 150,000 men on that in that region, in that area, that they had to build up just to be for protective measures. So probably take a few days for the Russian forces to regroup and resupply for the next phase. I expect it to start around the end of this week. That's not but the writer here, Moon of Alabama. Again, this is really in-depth detail. Okay, the denazification of Ukraine has proven to be more difficult. The main fascist units of the Azov Regiment were caught up in Mariupol, where several thousand of them have been or will be eliminated. That's a nice way of saying killed. More fascist units at the Donetsk front will also be taken out, but during the 8 years since the U.S. managed anti-democratic coup in Kiev, the fascist ideology has deeply infiltrated all Ukrainian government structures. It's a hydra. All right, it'll be hard for Ukrainians to remove it, even as its failures become obvious. In a lot of ways, it kind of feels like what's going on within the Democratic and Republican Party. Like, no matter what, you're going to have corporate infiltration until you pass laws that say that they can't do that anymore. All right, and again, this is from the Saker.is, an article about the infiltration and some of the Donbass commanders and people who are Azov Battalion and Nazis. Not neo-Nazis, actual Nazis. I hope I don't close everything right here. Nope, thank goodness. Ooh, all right, breathe. Again, anything beyond that depends on the willingness of the U.S. proxy government in Kiev to submit to Russia's demands, which doesn't look like they're doing so far. Russia can leave it at that or continue to mow the grass until none is left, unfortunately. And again, we don't want to see war. We are anti-war. We are not pro-Russia. We don't want to see fighting or anybody being killed, and this is unnecessary provocation on the U.S.'s part. Again, because we did not want to see the gas pipeline go operational, or between Russia and Germany. That Nord Stream 2 was absolutely critical to U.S. interest to not have it go live. So that really is the crux of why this happened, on top of the fact that we kept pushing further and further and further east towards Russia's border with NATO, even though we had told Ukraine they'd never be part of NATO and told them to keep that quiet. Again, shout out to Moon of Alabama for excellent analysis. I was watching Hinkle live last night for a few minutes after I watched Beauty and the Boomer, and shout out to Oz in the chat for both helping and supporting Tara Reid and independent streamers, as well as putting on a great show last night. I was watching Hinkle last night, and somebody suggested to watch Moon of Alabama and see if we can start to bring some of their analysis into his realm, as well as talking about the Duran and Alex Christoforou, and who's the other guy, the other Alex, Alexander Mercuris, who had a video in today's Leftist.today. So again, shout out to Popular Resistance for covering it. Shout out to Moon of Alabama for writing it. And again, it's terrible to see what's happening, but we do need to understand what actually is happening. So